Ultimate Sports Fix. I'm Eric. Today, I got Darren with me. How are you, Darren?
Pretty good, Eric. Glad to be here and join you tonight.
So, tonight, we're going to talk about the Browns and uh, how their offseason is going, and maybe a little bit into the Buckeyes. But let's start off with the offseason, the beginning of the offseason, the coaching hire, which we were kind of talking about on or before we jumped on here. So, what do you think is the of the hiring, and also not just the head coach, but the assistants that they got?
I think the Todd Monken hire was another situation like previous Browns hires where they got their fourth choice. They put themselves in a really tough position of trying to get the best candidates out there to interview. With that reason being, you already have Andrew Barry in place as a GM. You know, a new coach coming in wants to be the final say on the roster and get his flavor, his imprint on the team. And so they really shortened their list with that setup already. You weren't going to get John Harbaugh, primetime coach. He wants to be his own man, CEO. He's going to the Giants the whole time. Another top candidate out there was Chris Shula, defensive coordinator from the Rams. He didn't entertain any interviews from the Browns. He was my number one choice
Mhm.
to be the Browns head coach. So really unfortunate that we didn't get a chance to interview him. Then you had the two young assistants from one from the Rams and the Jaguars who might not be
Mhm.
ready yet. So they decided to stay one more year, to be the OC call plays and get some more experience. And that leaves you with Todd Monken. He was one
Mhm.
of the original five that interviewed for the position. I know. I think he was probably the final choice of Jimmy Haslam to get
Mhm.
this job. He was really hired based on his offensive coordinator history with Baltimore, Tampa Bay, and he was also previously an offensive coordinator with the Browns under Freddie Kitchens back in 2019. Todd's a nice guy, but he would not have been my first choice.
I I think I think they screwed Jim Schwartz by letting him know at the extreme last minute of that they were hiring Todd, which obviously ticked him off. So honestly, I I think that I wish they would have gone with one of the younger guys. Um, Especially the guy from the Rams. I think he would have been my pick if I had to choose the offensive coordinator. I wish I would have looked up his name before I started talking about this, but I think he would have been a really good fit after working under Sean McVay for a few years. I think he would have been a good fit at head coach. Don't know what his offensive coordinator or his coaching staff could have been because of the fact that he had never been a head coach. And I think, was it him or the guy from Jacksonville that was only a coordinator for 1 year?
I think it was both of them.
Okay.
The young man from LA, Nate Shieldhouse. He's
Mm-hmm.
following the lines of previous assistant coaches of the Rams. Um, the floor, Zach Taylor, but we know um, Sean McVay calls the plays there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing that was really holding him back. He really didn't. He's not had any experience of calling the whole program for a team. But I think this year he'll get that experience hopefully, and he'll be a coach the next year or two. Um,
Uh,
the young man from Jacksonville, same situation. So
mhm. I think actually the keeping Andrew Barry wasn't a bad move because he wasn't the one making the picks till really last year, and when he got full control of the draft, he actually did good with all the guys he drafted. Um, but D Podesta, who was my favorite person to rip, uh, once he kind of got out of the picture, Barry seems to know what he's doing.
Well, with there's been a lot of talk of the influence that Depot had or the organization as a whole. I have not been impressed with Andrew Barry's draft over the last 6 years. Granted, I will give him credit. The 25 draft so far has been successful with Schlesinger, Judkins, Harold Fannin. Those are key components for the future here. But it drives me crazy when you trade down, when you have
Mhm.
like a top six pick and you trade down. You got to get primetime players, and he hasn't proven that he could draft quality offensive linemen or wide receivers. I think that's about to change. The two kids they got in this past April's draft
Mhm.
with Denzel Boston and Casey Concepcion. I've been at Browns practice a couple times this past summer. Denzel Boston is a player. He is going to be the real deal. So I think that could uh, break the streak. What else has hurt them over the last couple years with the lack of draft picks? We know they trade all those picks in the Sean Watson trade. The kid from the Jets, uh, they used the second round pick for the receiver Moore. So, when you don't have your first or second round picks, those guys are projected starters. So when you don't have those, you have to go out into free agency to fill in those holes. So um, we'll see. So far the 25 draft looks good. This 26 draft, based on the two receivers, could be the highlight of this year's draft. So we'll have to wait and see.
I think the Fano pick was really good too. Uh, who has, like you said, you've been out to a couple practice. Who, if anybody, has stood out to you that might be maybe a surprise, um, like to make the team? Is there anybody?
I think the guy who's really made improvement this year is Isaiah Bonds, the free agent acquisition they signed last summer out of Texas, undrafted wide receiver. I think he could potentially be the third wide receiver on this team. I think he's made some great strides, and he's really impressed at training camp of the couple sessions that I've been there. So he'd be the one guy that I would look at. Also, I think the big man, Big Thanos, Dewan Jones has looked good as well. He could easily be a starter on this offensive line, which I think he should be. If he's healthy, he should be the starting right tackle on this line.
This offensive line is very shaky, but honestly, I think they could be good after playing a couple games together. Like, eh, they haven't got a lot of practice in, but practice can only do so much. I think they'll build chemistry quick, and they'll be able to, by game 5 probably, be a really good offensive line.
That's the key. They got to get their reps together. Uh, they've gotten set back with some injuries so
Hmm.
far, and they that had their key unit in there. So we'll see what happens because Dewan Jones was the starting left tackle. He was with the number one team up until 8 days ago when they put Fanos um, in there. So either he's going to be a starting right tackle or he's going to be the swing guard, the swing tackle or guard, the sixth lineman
Hmm.
coming out.
Who do you think, eh, out of Zinter or Whippler, do you think one might not make the team?
I think there's a good chance that Zenter might not make this team because he was a third round pick. He's going his third year. He had that horrific injury in the Ohio State game in 23. So, the injury's healed, but maybe that's hampered him. But usually a third round offensive lineman by his second year, you should be cracking the starting lineup. I think
Mhm.
Luke Whippler has more upside. He can play center or guard. So I think Whippler has the better chance of making the roster right now.
And with Zinter, he's had three. He's been in the league 3 years, and I think he's had three different offensive line coaches now. So that probably didn't help his development. Not that he was going to be good anyway, but having three different offensive line coaches probably doesn't help.
No. And also there's another sleeper in there. The Browns' third round pick, the lineman out of Florida, Austin Barber. He's getting a lot of looks now with the injury, so he could be a guy to watch out for on there. Another guy who it would have been nice to see his training camp was the young tight end from University of Cincinnati, Joe Royer. I think he's going through some personal issues right now. We're not privy to those, so I hope everything goes well with the young man. But he would have been a key component to this offense this year.
Yeah, I think those might be legal issues. So, from what I've seen, there were some legal issues back when he was in college. So, um, but that might be carrying over now. But it's so unfortunate that he didn't uh, get to practice at all. And then they had signed uh, uh, guy. I think his name was Dequan Wright from South Carolina, maybe. Uh, he was undrafted, but he actually decided to go back to school in the last couple of days. So he was a tight end.
Yeah, I think at this juncture of training camp, you're going to see a lot of players coming in and out, especially filling out towards the
Mm-hmm.
bottom of the roster. As we know, and we saw the Chicago game. Chicago's a very deep team. The Browns are not, and the Browns, their number one thing this year is cannot have sustainable injuries. So we know Schlesinger wasn't in the game against Chicago. Denzel Wright. We don't have those guys in there. You're gonna feel it.
Alex Wright got hurt today.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the end result was, how long he's going to be out, but hopefully a speedy recovery for Alex Wright.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely starter on that line. So we'll see what happens.
They didn't have. I had saw they didn't have the leg immobilized, so I'm guessing that's a good thing. Um, because they're really hurting, for lack of a better term, at defensive end. The fact they lost out on both Jadavion Clowney and Zadarius Smith, they're searching, and that's gonna be a huge struggle. I think um, there's a chance that even though he was undrafted, that Spencer Fano's brother Logan might make this team because the uh, defensive end room is very thin.
Yeah, and you got Michael Hall that just came back
Mm-hmm.
a couple days ago. But Michael has had some battles so far. Hopefully he can stay on the field. He's made some nice performances over the last couple days at training camp of what we read from the media. So hopefully, he can be a boost to this defense.
Did you see the highlight of the play that took him out of practice?
Yes, the Quinshon Junkins block. So that's
Yeah.
it's football. So
Yeah.
you know, I don't think it was a cheap play.
I don't like the fact that coach keeps calling practice and getting really mad if guys are tackling to the ground or accidentally make contact with the quarterback. Like, I don't know if you saw that. Not, I think it was yesterday or the day before. He like there was a play where a defensive tackle uh, accidentally made contact with the quarterback, and then another one when they brought Quinshon Junkins to the ground, and then after that, Coach Munkin called off the rest of practice.
Yeah, I did see that, and during this, it happens every year in training camps. We get towards the end of the summer session where guys are getting sick of hitting each other. Tempers are gonna flare up. I think this team needs the most reps they can get right now. So there's ways to deal with that corrective action afterwards. Make them run laps after practice. You need those. All the sessions you can have, all the plays. So I think Coach hopefully will learn. I think he's getting too strict. He said this is a marathon, and the marathon hasn't started yet. It starts September 13th against Jacksonville, and he's already getting a little stressful. So I think he needs to relax a little bit, and I think it'll come. He'll adjust.
I'm not fully sure if he knows what he's getting himself into. Um, but I mean, hopefully he can make it past this year, because the quarterback for 2027 isn't on this team yet, and I think comfortably say that that the starting quarterback that will be in 2027 is still in college right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. With Coach Monken being his first NFL job, he also has a responsibility. He's going to be his own offensive coordinator, even though they have Travis Switzer with that title, but Coach Monken will be calling the plays. And that is a lot to have on your plate. And I think the head coach should be the CEO type, and that's why you have your assistants for. I think the OC should be calling the plays. I know we've had some reports in camp where, like the pre-snap cadence, there's like 8 or 9 different sets they call for each of the position alignments, and that's something that the quarterbacks are working through right now. So that's something they might have to trim it down a little bit to get these plays in on time. That's the one thing. That's the biggest learning curve for Shedeur, because he didn't have that at Colorado, even though they had Pat Shurmur as their OC his last year. So that's his big thing he's getting through right now. So, he's got Travis Switzer. He's never had any experience calling plays at the NFL level, but that's why they hired Coach Monken for his offensive experience. You mentioned Jim Schwartz earlier. Great defensive coordinator. I think I knew they wouldn't hire him in the off season. They wanted to partner him up with the next head coach, and that's never a good situation where you bring in a new head coach in and you tell him, hey, you got to have this guy on your staff. You can. I love Jim, but you can always find another Jim Schwartz as your coach.
Maybe Rutenberg can be. I've heard that he's more aggressive than Schwartz.
Yeah, we haven't seen it yet just because of the injuries. We'll see Saturday. Maybe they'll turn up a little bit, but yeah, he really can't do that much either with some of his key guys out. I know have Denzel Ward in your defensive backfield. It's going to limit your defensive calls, especially for the blitzes and everything. So
they are. I think they're also their third corner is hurt, so they need somebody to step up. I kind of think they should have signed Martin Emerson to at least a 1-year deal, just to have an extra body, and he was actually good instead of letting him go.
Yeah, Martin was good. The Achilles injury hurt him. I think that was a situation where he thought he should be a starter, and the Browns think right now his career is a third or fourth DB. But the money he was asking for a third or fourth DB at this time was just too much for him to pay. But he's playing really good now in the New Orleans Saints training camp.
Oh yeah, I forgot he went there. What do you think the Falcons are gonna do? Do you think they'll be successful with Stefanski as the coach, or do you think he's not really that great of a head coach.
I'm not a big Kevin Stefanski fan. I don't think he's a good coach. He doesn't impress me as an offensive minded coach either. So it was really surprising that Tampa made that choice um, with that decision because they're in the same situation as the Browns. They don't have a quarterback. Michael Penix is recovering from the ACL. Tua Tagovailoa is there. He's injury prone. So I have them finishing last in the NFC South this coming year.
I agree. Like, I think he had too big of an ego for being a first time head coach, where he's never proven himself, and he he should have never been calling plays, being that again he's not experienced. I don't understand why unexperienced head coaches do that because they're just screwing themselves over in the long run. Because it rarely happens that a first time head coach who's also an offensive coordinator um, is successful and runs a great offense.
Yeah, there's not too much history of that. Sean McVay is one of them. You know, you talk about his lack of experience. Remember, he was only the OC for Minnesota for a season and a half. He took over halfway through 2018, and he was a guy that Paul DePodesta identified as a coach to replace Greg Williams. He was a finalist along with Freddie Kitchens, and John Dorsey won that decision by bringing in Freddie, and then you know the following year, Kevin was a finalist with Robert Saleh, and they decided to go with Kevin that year. But yeah, a year and a half, really not that much experience as an OC calling plays on there. Years ago when the Browns hired Rod Chudzinski, who had experience as offensive coordinator with the Browns, formerly the San Diego Chargers. Then he hired Norv Turner as his offensive coordinator, which was a really good move on that part. But unfortunately, that only lasted 1 year. So that's one example where a young guy brings in an experienced offensive assistant to help them out there. Really, Sean McVay is the one that this guy is a unicorn. Once in every lifetime, this guy will come out and be a genius. Years ago, it was Don Shula. Now it's Sean McVay, and he's the one who's been able to continue that.
I think the Browns were smart defensively because they hired Rutenberg, but they also have Dom Capers as a senior advisor or something like that. So a guy that has tons of experience at running defenses is now assisting our rookie defensive coordinator.
Yeah, Don Capers has been around for years. He got his start as OC with DC with the Pittsburgh Steelers back in the mid '90s. He's coached the Carolina Panthers expansion team, Houston Texans, former DC with the Green Bay, former senior assistant with the Green Bay Packers. So you can't beat that experience on there. So it was a wise move. I do like that. It doesn't hurt to have that older assistant on there to be in an advisory position. I think other guys to join, possibly Sean McVay in that elite group is Liam Cohen from Jacksonville. Coming from Tampa Bay, took Jacksonville to the playoffs the first year. He's really improved Trevor Lawrence's production. Dan Canales from Carolina could be another guy. He's taken them to the playoffs already. If he can turn the other young quarterback, Bryce Young, right, from Alabama, because he started off really slow as well his first year. He benched them the first game of his second year. So we'll see what happens with Bryce Young. But I like Dan Canales. We'll see how hopefully Carolina will give him the time and resources needed to succeed. But I think the next guy up there is Liam Cohen. But let's see how they do their second year around.
I think he can be a good coach too. Like, he did good with Baker when Baker first went to Tampa, and then him. I don't want to say turning around Trevor Lawrence, but he found something that works for Trevor.
Remember, this is Trevor's third head coach. First was Urban, then Doug Peterson, now Liam. So he did make the playoffs the one year with Peterson. They had that win the wild card round, that comeback against the Chargers. So we'll see what happens with Liam Cohen's second year in Jacksonville.
Yeah, it should be just. I'm actually more curious to see what happens with Baker after this season, contract wise.
Yeah, Baker's won the long term contract with Jacksonville. He's going to be paid up there with the top 5 or 6 guys in football, which is around the $55, $58 million a year. I don't think Baker's worth that much
No.
at that rate. Baker's a top 12 quarterback, so definitely high 40s, low 50s. Pay the man. And we know about Baker, when he finds something, when he finds a something to fight against, he succeeds. So wouldn't be surprised for a breakout year from Baker Mayfield.
I would agree, and at least I don't think he was a good fit in Cleveland. Like, he needed to be knocked down a peg because of his ego, but like at least he is successful, unlike another quarterback who can't keep Cleveland out of his mouth, Mr. Manziel.
Yeah, that's another that's another show to talk about.
Yeah, yeah, but uh, honestly, Baker can. I think he'll be a mid-level quarterback, never in the top 10, but also not in the bottom 10.
No, he's a top 12, top 14. If you look at the top quarterbacks today, it's Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. Those are the top 3 in football. Josh Allen. So those are the top. Those are my top 4.
I would say, yeah, I would probably say Mahomes, Allen. Actually, I would just go top 2 because I feel like it's kind of up in the air past them. But but I lost my train of thought. Lovely when that happens. But if Mahomes could stay healthy, I think he'll easily be the number 1 in the league. But he's really struggled to stay healthy.
Yeah, they had that run ever since 2018. They had the injuries last year, and they're getting older now, so they got to start replacing, getting a little bit younger, getting younger at the key skill positions. So they were 6-11 last year. I expect them to be maybe a 9 or 10 win team this year. Maybe one of the 3 wild cards, but I don't see them going back to where they were a couple years ago.
Yeah, I agreed too. I mean, they just they don't really have a lot around him. Like, the defense is not strong enough to hold the team if he gets hurt again.
No, and that's what happened last year. The defense finally caught up to him. The age, injuries, and they didn't have the firepower on offense to keep up. So,
I mean, it's hard to replace Mahomes.
Yeah.
Or even half replace.
Yeah,
so.
it's when you lose the best quarterback in football, it's a tough pill to swallow.
They have one of the best coaches, but a coach can only do so much.
Exactly.
So, let's transition into college football for a few minutes. So it sounds like Julian saying, well, I know he's definitely going to be the quarterback this year, but it sounds like he's had a better offseason, and he's progressing. He's put on some strength, muscle wise. So it'll be really interesting to see what he can do if he actually is able to surpass any of the other guys on the draft board above him, maybe become the number one quarterback.
It could be, like you said, he's had a nice offseason. He's put on some muscle. We know what he can do on the field last year. He had a great completion percentage, low interception rate up until like the last 3 games of the year. Julian Sain is the least of your worries for Ohio State. He's going to put up some video game type numbers this coming year, and he will be in the talk for the Heisman and one of the top 3 quarterbacks drafted next spring.
I think he'll be above Arch Manning. I think Arch has actually done uh, bad for himself because I just uh, he seems like he's dropping off. Like he had a rough year last year. He probably could have been the number one pick if he would have went out last year and got drafted, but since he didn't, he forced himself to have to go back to school this year
I think
because
it
he
was
would have dropped.
planned all along that he would come back this year, just to get that experience, just like his uncle Eli, Uncle Peyton did as well. He started slow last year. Started against the Ohio State team, which was really tough, especially against Matt Patricia. He did get better throughout the year. I think Arch Manning will be fine. At the end of the day, he will probably be, and barring any injury or any major setback, he'll be the number one pick next April.
Oh, you think he's even above Dante Moore?
Yes,
Interesting.
yes, yes, I do. Right now my top 4 quarterbacks are I got Arch Manning number 1, Dante Moore 2, Julian Sayin 3, and the kid from Notre Dame, C.J. Carr number 4.
Hmm. What do you think about Mestamaker, the guy from Oklahoma State, I believe?
I'm not familiar with him, so I really can't comment on him. So, but as the college season starting here next couple weeks, I'll be watching a lot, so I'll be able to
Hmm.
focus more on some of these quarterbacks.
He would be if the Browns got him. He'd be a later first round. He'd he'd be the second first round pick that they have. If in that case they might. I've seen. I'm really big into the mock drafts, so I've already been looking into mock drafts. I've seen some people say they'll draft Jeremiah Smith and then uh, get Mestamaker um, the later with the later pick. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, Jeremiah Smith is the best overall player coming into the 2027 draft, but with the quarterback need, don't be surprised if Jeremiah Smith is number 4, number 5 in the first round. That's because the need for quarterbacks are out there. As soon as that first quarterback's taken, the run on is going to happen.
This coming draft is probably the most quarterback heavy draft in a long time. Like
I would
they,
say the last 5 years. Yeah, I agree with you. And
yeah,
it's just the Trevor Lawrence draft, Justin Fields came out of that one, um, Mac Jones. So
so oh, oh what do you as a uh, NFL player? What do you think of Justin Fields?
I was a big fan of Justin Fields coming out of Ohio State. He had the strong arm, great mobility. I think it was 11th pick um, by Chicago. I just think the NFL game has been too fast for him. Reading the defenses, he just hasn't caught on. He had some good weapons last year with the Jets, with Garrett Wilson, Brees Hall, but it just didn't turn out for him. I thought he didn't have the best situation in Chicago. I thought if Pittsburgh would have played him more, he would have succeeded there. He could have been a great fit in Pittsburgh. I think he was 4-2 that year he played when he was subbing for Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I think Chicago really screwed him up because that was who was the coach? Oh, I know he used to be in Kansas City with.
Oh, they Matt Nagy.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
What do you think of Ohio State hiring Arthur Smith?
It's an interesting hire. It's a little different from Chip Kelly from a couple years ago. I think they had to go back to a true offensive coordinator who's had a history of calling plays. Brian Hartline, that was his first year last year in calling plays, even though he had the offensive coordinator title the last few years. So I like the move. I think we're gonna have a more emphasis on some running this year, rollouts with Julian Sane. So I think we're have a really balanced attack um, with this offense with Jeremiah Smith and Chris Henry Jr., Brandon Ennis. So they're loaded. Four out of five offensive linemen are coming back. Ohio State will be fine. Don't get too upset if they go 10-2 or 11-1 during the regular season. They'll be fine. They have a tough schedule this year. They have road games at Texas, at Indiana, at Iowa, at USC. They got Oregon coming to Columbus. They got Michigan at the end of the year. So, it's gonna be a tough schedule.
I'm kind of curious to see how Indiana is gonna do after Mendoza.
I think Indiana will be right up there. I don't see them winning the national title this year, but they will be up there competing for it. They should be a top 12 playoff team. Kirk Signetti, unbelievable turnaround he's had in Bloomington the last 3 years. Look him up, Google him. He wins.
Yeah,
So,
I was just gonna say that.
I'm a big Kirk Signetti fan. It took me a while to grow on me, but I respect the guy, and he's a great coach. It was tough losing to them last year in the Big Ten championship game.
How do you think the Michigan's gonna do this year? Do you think even with the new head coach they'll still be up top, or do you think Underwood's not uh, really a great quarterback?
I think Whittingham as new coach this year, offensive-minded coach. I think it's a perfect situation for Bryce Underwood. I think he will be better, and I could see them in a top 5 of the Big Ten. I could see them winning 9 or 10 games this year. So Michigan will be fine. So they're going to turn Bryce loose this year.
Who do you think's gonna be the top 5 um, after the season, like the AP top 5? Like I know it's 12 teams make the playoffs, but who do you think's gonna be like the top 5?
Top
Teams?
5 in no particular order. Ohio State, of course. Georgia, Oregon. I think Alabama. You can't count them out. And Miami of Florida, the U.
Ooh, I I would sub the U out with Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, they're getting a lot of run right now, and I just don't. Marcus Freeman, great coach. I'm a big Marcus Freeman fan, but I just don't think they have the right talent to compete with the Ohio States or the Georgias. I think Ohio State or Georgia would run, and Miami would run them off the field.
I don't think a lot of people have the talent to beat Ohio State or Georgia.
No, did I say Texas? Did I say Texas in my top 5?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, Ohio State, Texas, Georgia, Alabama, and Miami of Florida, and Oregon. Those are my 6. So.
Yeah, I would say. Oh no, because I was gonna say Ole Miss, but Kiffin left. So
They got their quarterback coming back, so I think they'll be good. But Ohio State and Texas, they're the cream of the crop. They're the class.
Hmm. Oh yeah, the guy that I don't remember if I mentioned this on the air or before we went on the air. There was a tight end that was with the Browns that went back to school for 6th year of eligibility. He actually went to Ole Miss. So, yeah.
So, yeah,
Just
they're gonna be
random
loaded
tidbit.
again. So I don't see LSU being a factor this year, but give Lane 2 years and he'll have them back in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah. Do you think there's going to be a surprise team to make the top 12 teams this year?
Boy, that's tough because most of these teams will come out of the three divisions: the Big Ten, SEC, and Big 12. That's a good question. I have to think about that one. There will be a team. I'm thinking if there is a team, it'll probably be probably coming out of the Big 12. Maybe Brigham Young. If I had to say a team right now.
Yeah, I would agree there. I see out of the MAC, obviously not making the top whatever, but even top 25. But I think Kent might have a really good year. They got a new head coach last year, and I think they almost went 500 after losing or winning only 2 games for the previous 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah, Kent State, that could be a surprise team in the MAC. They got an old veteran team, so that's
Hmm.
gonna help them. So that could be a team that could surprise this year and playing that bowl game in Detroit around the holidays.
Akron's done pretty good lately too. I am interested to see what they do.
Akron's hit or miss, but they get a lot of talent from the Akron area, so they're always in the discussion. So see.
Well, with that, thank you everybody for listening. Uh, we'll wrap it. Thank you so much, Darren.
Thank you, Eric. It was a pleasure.
And